One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that the loudest person in the room is the one they should pay attention to. In reality, psychology often points in a different direction. The quiet individual who keeps to themselves, shares very little, and seems to move through life without close friends can be far more difficult to understand. That mystery naturally attracts curiosity. Some people immediately assume they must be cold, arrogant, or even dangerous. Others believe they are simply independent and stronger than everyone else. Yet the truth is far more complex than either of these popular beliefs. Human behavior is rarely explained by a single label, and a life lived in solitude can hide very different stories beneath the surface. Sometimes that silence protects wisdom, sometimes it protects pain, and sometimes it hides emotional patterns that even the person living with them may not fully recognize. This is where psychology begins to reveal answers that most people never stop to consider. Modern research shows that being alone and feeling lonely are not the same experience. A person can spend most of their time alone while feeling completely fulfilled, emotionally balanced, and deeply satisfied with life. Another person may be surrounded by people every day, yet carry an overwhelming sense of isolation inside. The difference is not measured by the number of friends someone has, but by the quality of their emotional connections and the reasons behind their choices. That single idea changes the entire conversation. Instead of asking why someone has no friends, psychology encourages us to ask what experiences shaped that decision in the first place. The answers often lead into childhood experiences, trust, emotional wounds, personality, fear of rejection, independence, and even survival instincts developed many years earlier. Some individuals build walls because they were betrayed too many times. Others stop relying on people because they learned early in life that no one would come to help them. Some choose solitude because it gives them peace that crowded relationships never could. Yet there are also cases where avoiding close relationships becomes a way of escaping vulnerability, responsibility, or emotional intimacy. From the outside, all of these people may look exactly the same. They may all appear to be loners. But inside, their reasons could not be more different. That is why judging someone simply because they keep no friends can lead to serious misunderstandings. Throughout this video, you will discover what psychology really says about people who spend most of their lives alone. You will learn why healthy solitude can actually improve emotional well-being, why chronic isolation sometimes points to unresolved emotional struggles, and why the absence of close friendships should never be used as the only measure of a person's character. We will uncover hidden psychological patterns that influence trust, explain why some people become fiercely independent after painful experiences, and reveal the subtle differences between peaceful solitude and emotional withdrawal. Along the way, you may recognize behaviors in people around you, or perhaps even in yourself, that suddenly begin to make sense. Some of the insights later in this video challenge common assumptions that have been repeated for years, and one particular psychological pattern discussed near the end surprises even professionals because it changes the way we interpret silence itself. By the time this journey is over, you will understand why the quietest person in the room cannot be judged by appearances alone, why loneliness and solitude are often confused, and why learning the difference can protect your relationships while giving you a deeper understanding of human nature. Stay with us until the very end, because each insight builds on the last, revealing a bigger picture that is rarely discussed, but can completely change how you see people who choose to walk through life alone. Welcome to the channel, where we explore the hidden psychology behind human behavior in simple and meaningful ways. If you enjoy thoughtful conversations that challenge common beliefs and help you better understand yourself and the people around you, subscribe now and join us as we uncover the fascinating truths that are often hidden beneath the surface. The first truth that psychology asks us to accept is surprisingly simple. Being alone is not the same as being isolated. These two experiences may look identical from the outside, but they come from completely different places inside the mind. A person sitting alone in a park, reading a book, may feel peaceful, energized, and emotionally healthy. Another person sitting alone in the exact same place may feel trapped by fear, sadness, or the belief that no one truly understands them. The picture looks the same, but the emotional reality is completely different. This is why psychologists are careful not to judge a person's social life by appearances alone. Healthy solitude is often a choice. Isolation is often an experience that feels difficult to escape. One creates strength, while the other can slowly drain it. Understanding this difference changes the way we see quiet people forever. Healthy solitude gives the mind room to breathe. Every conversation, every responsibility, and every emotional demand takes energy. Spending time alone allows people to recover from all of that. It gives the brain a chance to organize thoughts without interruption. Many people notice that their best ideas appear when no one else is around. Writers discover new stories. Artists create meaningful work. Scientists solve difficult problems. Entrepreneurs find creative solutions. Even ordinary people often make their most important life decisions during quiet moments when they are free from outside opinions. Solitude creates space for self-reflection. It allows people to ask difficult questions about who they are, what they truly want, and what needs to change. Instead of reacting to everyone else's expectations, they begin listening to their own thoughts. This kind of emotional independence is not a weakness. It is often a sign of maturity because it means a person does not need constant approval to feel valuable. They enjoy relationships, but they are not completely defined by them. Healthy solitude also plays an important role in recovering from stress. Modern life keeps people connected almost every minute of the day. Messages arrive constantly. Social media never stops. Work follows people home. Families need attention. Friends expect replies. The human brain was never designed to remain socially active every waking moment. Quiet time becomes a form of emotional recovery. During these peaceful moments, stress levels can decrease, attention becomes clearer, and emotions become easier to manage. This is why many emotionally balanced people intentionally spend time alone without feeling lonely. They understand that solitude is not an escape from life. It is preparation for returning to life with greater patience, focus, and emotional stability. Isolation, however, follows a different path. Instead of choosing solitude because it feels peaceful, a person begins avoiding people because connection itself feels unsafe. They slowly withdraw from conversations. They stop answering messages. Invitations become uncomfortable instead of exciting. They convince themselves that staying alone is easier than risking disappointment again. Over time, this pattern becomes stronger. The fewer relationships they have, the more difficult new relationships begin to feel. Their confidence slowly disappears because emotional skills grow through practice. Without regular connection, even simple conversations can begin to feel stressful. The world outside starts looking unpredictable, while staying alone feels more familiar. Unfortunately, familiar does not always mean healthy. One of the biggest differences between healthy solitude and unhealthy isolation is emotional openness. Someone enjoying healthy solitude can still form close relationships when they choose to. They are comfortable sharing thoughts, asking for help, and trusting people who earn that trust. A person trapped in chronic isolation often struggles with these same actions. Opening up feels dangerous. Depending on someone feels risky. Showing emotions feels like giving another person power. Instead of building trust step by step, they build walls one brick at a time. Those walls may protect them from disappointment, but they also prevent genuine connection from growing. This leads to one of the most important hidden reasons some people have very few friends. Trust is not created automatically. It is built through repeated experiences where people prove they are reliable, honest, and emotionally safe. When those experiences are replaced by betrayal, the brain learns a very different lesson. A child who repeatedly experiences broken promises may grow into an adult who expects disappointment before it even happens. Someone betrayed by close friends may begin assuming that loyalty never lasts. A painful relationship filled with lies can leave emotional scars that remain long after the relationship ends. These experiences quietly shape expectations without the person even realizing it. Instead of entering new friendships with hope, they enter them expecting another betrayal. The result is often distance before closeness ever has a chance to develop. Childhood experiences play an especially powerful role because they create the first understanding of relationships. Children naturally expect protection, comfort, and emotional support from the adults around them. When those needs are consistently met, trust develops almost naturally. The child learns that people can be dependable. But when caregivers are emotionally unavailable, unpredictable, or overly critical, the opposite lesson may take root. The child begins adapting to uncertainty by relying only on themselves. They stop expecting comfort because disappointment hurts less when nothing is expected. This adaptation may help them survive difficult years, but it often follows them into adulthood. Long after childhood has ended, they continue behaving as though every relationship could suddenly become unsafe. Broken relationships later in life strengthen these beliefs even more. One painful experience rarely changes a person's entire view of humanity. Repeated disappointments can. Every betrayal becomes another piece of evidence supporting the belief that trusting others is dangerous. Eventually, avoiding friendships starts feeling logical. From the outside, people may assume the individual simply prefers being alone. Inside, however, they may still want connection while believing it can never truly be safe. This emotional conflict creates defensive behavior that others often misunderstand. They keep conversations short. They avoid personal questions. They rarely reveal their deepest thoughts. Compliments make them uncomfortable. Kindness may even feel suspicious because they constantly wonder what the other person really wants. These reactions are not always signs of arrogance or coldness. Many are protective habits built after years of emotional pain. Another hidden reason some people avoid close friendships is their relationship with control. Every meaningful relationship requires compromise. It asks both people to become emotionally available, flexible, and willing to depend on each other at least sometimes. For someone who has spent years protecting themselves, this feels incredibly uncomfortable. Control creates certainty. Relationships create uncertainty. Another person's emotions cannot be predicted. Their choices cannot be controlled. Their loyalty cannot be guaranteed. For someone carrying deep emotional wounds, this uncertainty feels exhausting. Remaining independent seems much safer because it removes the possibility of unexpected disappointment. This desire for control often appears in small everyday behaviors. They insist on solving every problem alone. Accepting help feels almost impossible because receiving support creates a sense of obligation. They rarely ask for advice because trusting someone else's judgment feels risky. Even when life becomes overwhelming, they continue carrying everything by themselves. To others, this may look like confidence. In reality, it may reflect a fear of becoming emotionally dependent on anyone. Depending on another person means accepting the possibility that they might leave, disappoint, or reject them one day. Avoiding closeness removes that risk, but it also removes the comfort, support, and joy that healthy relationships can provide. Emotional distance becomes another form of protection. Instead of completely avoiding people, some individuals allow others to stay close only to a certain point. Conversations remain friendly but never deeply personal. Personal struggles stay hidden. Vulnerable moments are carefully edited before anyone else sees them. They reveal just enough to appear open, while protecting the parts of themselves they fear others might reject. This balance feels safe because it keeps control firmly in their hands. The closer someone gets, the more uncomfortable they become. Not because they dislike people, but because true intimacy requires uncertainty. And uncertainty has become linked with emotional pain. Beneath all of these patterns often lies another hidden struggle that is rarely visible. Some people keep others at a distance because they believe important parts of themselves are unacceptable. Shame has an incredible ability to shape behavior without announcing its presence. It quietly whispers that if people knew the whole truth, they would leave. Past mistakes, painful memories, family problems, personal failures, or deep insecurities become carefully guarded secrets. Rather than risk exposure, they reduce opportunities for anyone to get close enough to discover those hidden parts. Avoiding friendships becomes less about disliking people, and more about protecting a fragile sense of self. Fear of rejection strengthens this cycle. When someone already expects rejection, even neutral situations begin feeling threatening. A delayed message feels personal. A canceled plan feels like proof they are unwanted. Silence becomes evidence that people are losing interest. Instead of asking questions or seeking reassurance, they quietly step away before rejection can become official. They leave relationships first because leaving hurts less than being left behind. Over time, this habit becomes automatic, making genuine friendships increasingly difficult to build even when caring people enter their lives. Another hidden reason behind a life with very few close relationships often begins much earlier than most people realize. It starts during childhood, long before a person has the ability to fully understand what is happening around them. Children naturally depend on adults for comfort, guidance, and emotional security. They expect someone to notice when they are afraid, celebrate when they succeed, and reassure them when life becomes confusing. When those emotional needs are met consistently, children usually grow into adults who believe that depending on others is normal and safe. They learn that asking for help is not a weakness, and that relationships can provide comfort during difficult times. But not every child grows up in an environment where emotional support is reliable. Some experience emotional neglect, not because they lack food or shelter, but because their feelings are ignored, dismissed, or constantly misunderstood. Their sadness is treated as overreacting. Their fears are brushed aside. Their excitement receives little attention. Over time, These children stop expressing what they feel because experience teaches them that no one is truly listening. They begin solving emotional problems alone because they believe there is no other choice. What starts as a survival strategy slowly becomes part of their identity. Unreliable caregivers can create a similar pattern. A parent may be loving one day and emotionally unavailable the next. Promises may be broken without explanation. Support may appear only when it is convenient. This unpredictability teaches children that people cannot always be counted on. Instead of feeling secure, they become alert. They learn to expect disappointment before it happens. As they grow older, they carry this expectation into friendships, romantic relationships, and even professional partnerships. They do not necessarily dislike people. They simply struggle to believe that anyone will remain dependable over time. Because of this, they often decide that relying on themselves is the safest option. They become highly capable, responsible, and independent. They solve problems without asking for help. They work through pain in silence. They keep moving forward no matter how difficult life becomes. From the outside, these individuals often appear incredibly strong. Others admire their discipline and resilience. Few people notice that this strength was built out of necessity rather than choice. Psychologists sometimes describe this pattern as hyper-independence. It goes beyond simply enjoying personal freedom. It becomes a belief that depending on another person is dangerous. Accepting help creates discomfort instead of relief. Trust feels risky rather than comforting. Even small acts of kindness can make someone uneasy because receiving support feels unfamiliar. They may insist on handling every challenge alone, even when doing so creates unnecessary stress. Friends offer assistance, but they politely refuse. Family members reach out, but they say everything is fine. Deep inside, they may desperately want connection. Yet another part of them warns that depending on others could lead to disappointment or emotional pain. This inner conflict often leaves them exhausted because carrying every burden alone requires tremendous emotional energy. A survival mindset can remain active long after the original danger has disappeared. During difficult childhoods, emotional self-reliance may have been the only way to cope. Trusting the wrong person may have led to more pain. Depending on others may have resulted in repeated disappointment. In that environment, becoming emotionally independent helped protect them. The problem is that the brain does not always recognize when life has changed. Even after entering healthier environments, the same protective habits continue operating. They still expect people to leave. They still prepare for betrayal before it happens. They still believe that showing vulnerability creates unnecessary risk. What once protected them from emotional harm now prevents them from experiencing the security and closeness they have always wanted. The shield remains in place even when there is no longer an attack to defend against. This is why some people appear distant even when surrounded by kind, trustworthy individuals. They are not rejecting the people in front of them. They are reacting to emotional memories that continue influencing present-day decisions. Their nervous system remembers uncertainty long after their circumstances have improved. Building trust, therefore, becomes much slower, because every relationship must overcome years of protective conditioning. Patience, consistency, and emotional safety matter far more than dramatic gestures. Over time, some people gradually learn that healthy relationships are different from the painful ones they experienced in the past. Others continue living behind emotional walls, because lowering those defenses feels too frightening. Neither path can be understood simply by counting the number of friends they have. At the same time, psychology reminds us not to make another common mistake. Not every person who enjoys spending time alone is carrying emotional wounds. Solitude itself is not evidence of trauma, sadness, or psychological struggle. Some people genuinely prefer quieter lives because that is where they feel most comfortable. Their personality naturally draws them toward calm environments instead of constant social activity. They enjoy peaceful mornings, long walks, thoughtful conversations, and meaningful hobbies more than large gatherings or endless social events. Their happiness does not depend on being surrounded by people every day. They feel filled through reflection, learning, and creativity. For these individuals, being alone is not a sign that something is wrong. It is simply the lifestyle that fits them best. Introverts often experience the world in this way. While they can enjoy friendships and meaningful conversations, they usually regain energy through quiet time rather than social interaction. After spending hours with others, they often need time alone to recharge. This does not mean they dislike people. It simply reflects how their energy is restored. Many writers also spend long periods in solitude, because creative work requires concentration and uninterrupted thought. Researchers dedicate countless hours to studying difficult problems that demand deep focus. Artists often withdraw into quiet spaces, where ideas can develop without distraction. Musicians, philosophers, inventors, and many other creative individuals have produced remarkable work during periods of intentional solitude. Their time alone is not driven by fear. It is driven by purpose. Reading is another activity that naturally encourages solitude. A person can spend hours exploring history, science, psychology, or literature without feeling lonely. Books provide opportunities to understand different perspectives, challenge personal beliefs, and expand knowledge. Someone who values learning may happily choose an evening with a good book over a crowded social event. Others find peace in gardening, painting, hiking, writing journals, or building projects with their own hands. These activities create satisfaction that does not require constant interaction. Independence becomes a source of freedom rather than isolation. Such people often maintain a few close relationships instead of many casual ones, valuing depth over quantity. Because of these differences, the number of friends someone has tells us very little about their character. One person may know hundreds of people yet struggle to maintain honest relationships. Another may have only 2 trusted friends and enjoy a deeply meaningful social life. Quality matters far more than quantity. Judging someone simply because they have a small, social circle ignores the countless reasons that shape human behavior. Personality, upbringing, culture, interests, emotional needs, and life experiences all influence how people build relationships. No single pattern explains everyone. Instead of focusing on appearances, psychology encourages us to pay attention to behavior. Behavior tells a much more reliable story than social popularity ever can. A person with very few friends may still be honest, compassionate, dependable, and respectful. Another person surrounded by admirers may repeatedly manipulate those closest to them. This is why psychologists place greater importance on consistent patterns of behavior rather than outward image. Honesty is one of those patterns. Does the person regularly tell the truth, even when it is uncomfortable, or do they constantly twist facts to protect themselves? Manipulation is another important sign. Some individuals quietly control others through guilt, fear, or emotional pressure while appearing charming on the surface. Lack of empathy also deserves attention. Healthy relationships require the ability to recognize and care about another person's feelings. Someone who repeatedly ignores the pain they cause, refuses to acknowledge another person's perspective, or treats people as tools instead of human beings reveals far more about their character than the size of their friend group. Another behavior worth noticing is the refusal to accept responsibility. Everyone makes mistakes. Emotionally healthy people admit them, learn from them, and try to improve. Others spend years blaming everyone else for every problem in their lives. Nothing is ever their fault. Every conflict becomes someone else's responsibility. This pattern often damages relationships because growth cannot happen without accountability. Repeated exploitation is another serious warning sign. Some people only maintain relationships for personal gain. They disappear when support is needed, but quickly return when they want favors, money, attention, or emotional comfort. These patterns reveal far more than whether someone prefers spending weekends alone. Psychology ultimately teaches that every person's story is unique. Some people choose solitude because they are healing from painful experiences and need time to rebuild trust. Others keep their distance because emotional wounds still feel too fresh to risk another disappointment. Some discover that a quieter lifestyle brings peace, focus, and fulfillment that constant social activity never provided. Understanding these differences allows us to respond with greater wisdom instead of making quick judgments based on appearances alone. It also reminds us that healthy boundaries and genuine compassion can exist together, helping us see people as individuals shaped by experiences rather than stereotypes shaped by assumptions. The greatest mistake we can make is believing that a person's value can be measured by the size of their social circle. Psychology tells a very different story. Some of the kindest, wisest, and most emotionally balanced people prefer a quiet life with only a handful of meaningful relationships. At the same time, some people hide deep emotional wounds behind their distance from others, while some use isolation as a shield to avoid trust, vulnerability, or intimacy. The outside may look the same, but the reasons underneath can be completely different. That is why true understanding begins when we stop judging appearances and start paying attention to behavior. Character is revealed through honesty, kindness, empathy, responsibility, and the way someone treats others when no one is watching. These qualities matter far more than how many friends appear on a contact list or social media profile. A person with only one genuine friend may possess more integrity than someone surrounded by hundreds of acquaintances. Perhaps the most valuable lesson is this: solitude itself is neither good nor bad. For some, it is a place of healing after painful experiences. For others, it's where creativity grows and inner peace is found. And for some, it becomes a wall built from fear, betrayal, or emotional scars that have never fully healed. Learning to recognize these differences makes us wiser, more compassionate, and better at protecting ourselves from unhealthy relationships without unfairly judging those who simply choose a different way of living. The next time you meet someone who walks through life alone, resist the urge to make quick assumptions. Every quiet person carries a story that cannot be seen from the outside. Some stories are filled with resilience, others are filled with heartbreak. Many are a mixture of both. The number of friends someone has will never tell you who they truly are. Their actions always will. So before asking why someone is alone, ask a better question. Are they honest? Are they capable of empathy? Can they build trust? Do they treat people with respect when it truly matters? Those answers reveal far more about a person's character than loneliness ever could. If this video gave you a new perspective on human behavior, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who might see people differently after hearing this message. And if you enjoy exploring the hidden psychology behind everyday life in a simple and meaningful way, make sure to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive into the fascinating world of the human mind. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.